good,
I was
brother?
close enough. How you doing, man?
Oh, man, so good to see you.
Good to see you, man. It's been way too long.
No doubt. Looking good, brother.
You too.
The two of you have a lot in common. Obviously, decades in professional baseball, each of you. Each of you have a World Series ring. Each of you have cancer journeys to speak of, which we're going to talk about very shortly. I'd like to start with how this friendship got started, because obviously when you're in big league baseball, et cetera, you come across a lot of people. How did this friendship hit and stick?
Well, for me, I think Doug knew me before I knew him. I don't know, he said we played against each other in college. I didn't remember that. But I remember meeting Doug when I was managing in AA in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And he was a scout at the time. And I'd always recognize him sitting in the stands and watching us take batting practice and things of that nature. And then one day he was down low and he just called me over and we started talking. He was asking me about players. And we just kind of hit it off. You meet people and you connect. And for me, it was just an instant connection. When I met him, I was like, this is a good dude right here.
Said hello to him, wanted to introduce myself. I also wanted to get some information that he wouldn't give up. He was loyal to the Pirates. And then he went to the major leagues, and again, we connected there a little bit. And there was a regime change in Pittsburgh, and he was available and made a full court press to try to get him to Washington, and we were very fortunate that he came and was a National.
I ended up calling him back, and I accepted a job in Harrisburg to manage the Senators. But it's one of the highlights of my career, because Doug never treated me like an employee. He didn't treat any of us like employees.
In the role that I had, he was kind of my right-hand guy. And I think our closeness became even greater at that point because you have to bounce a lot of things off of that person, not knowing what was in front of us. No idea. But our relationship really bonded there, and it went beyond just baseball.
Let's fast forward to 2015. This is where things get rather interesting, in that in 2015, Doug, you were diagnosed with leukemia. Tony, a few short months later, you were diagnosed with rectal cancer. You guys were both fighting cancer at the same time as friends. Take me back to that time and what the dynamic was like at that point.
Well, when I was initially diagnosed, there was nothing to warn me that this was imminent. Mine was pretty abrupt, and when I was diagnosed, obviously I was talking to Tony, and the initial phase that I went through was to be able to use TKI inhibitor to mitigate the leukemia. Shortly thereafter, that's when Tony faced his difficulties, and I clearly remember us talking on the phone, and he voiced his concerns with things, and unfortunately, he was faced with a similar dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like, obviously it was a time in my life where, it was something that, in my mind, I was healthy and something that couldn't happen to me. I mean, that's kind of how I looked at it. And, but when I think back in hindsight, I ignored signs. Yeah, I was stage 3. My doctor last year said 3C, which, he said you were one stage away from stage 4. But, I knew what Doug was going through, and I knew Lisa had been through cancer, Doug's wife. And, we're a family, and so Doug and I just leaned on each other, and just a journey. We were fighting similar fights, but very different fights at the same time. The fact that we were there for each other, and just, he leaned on me a lot. He asked me a lot of questions because I couldn't hide if I wanted to, because I was in the public eye with my job. I mean, he's my brother and my friend, and I love him. And I mean, I I always felt like he was going through something much more difficult than what I was. And I wanted to be there for him.
And one of the things that differentiates your cancer journeys a bit is that, Doug, you fought cancer 4 times now, successfully. You're 4-0 on this.
Even through my first 3 battles, I probably still had an element of invincibility, or I wasn't very smart, one of the two. But it took me until I was through my 3rd episode to realize how precious each day is, and to be where your feet are. And you got to remind yourself each day. And Tony is really. I was raised with faith, but he has been the fuel that has fed that faith even more now.
That each day mentality is something else you both have in common, because Tony, I know on the first day of spring training following your surgery, you spoke to your team. And a key message in your speech was win each day. That was your mantra at the time, so much that the phrase win your day ended up on a T-shirt, didn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I talked to the team because, we had a great group of guys. And, we were really family-oriented. And I just talked to those guys, and I wanted to address them myself and not let them hear things a roundabout way. But I told them I didn't want them to feel sorry for me. I didn't want that. I didn't want no sympathy. I just wanted them to just treat me normal, because I told my doctor that I said I want to keep doing normal things. I want to go to spring training. I want to do my job. I don't want to sit around and proclaim that I'm sick. I'm not going to do that. And so I want to take one day at a time, which is just that's a baseball mentality. We talk about, one game at a time. And so in my mindset, it was like, just win your day, win each day.
I had a little different approach to that. There were certain elements that I expected. I was inpatient a little bit more, I think, than Tony was, other than his surgery. But there were certain components that were a must for me. I didn't want to say the word chemotherapy, okay? And I made sure that when any of the nurses or whoever was administering that, I made sure they understood it. For me, it was a treatment, because in my mind, treatment meant I was getting better. The other thing that I made very clear from the beginning was I don't want to hear about statistics. I don't want to hear about this group of people or that group of people. I'm me. I'm not going to be compared to anybody else. All I want to know is how are you going to help me to beat this? That's all I want to know. You can be honest with me, put it at my feet, and I'll find the way. But there were certain things that I demanded. I didn't want anybody coming in my room with a bad attitude. That's not going to help anybody. So those were just some of the little things that were musts for me.
And one thing for me that was huge was if someone said, "You're cancer," that irritated me.
Why?
Because I would never take ownership of the cancer. Like, it was my enemy. Like, it wasn't something that I invited into my body or I welcomed in my body. I wanted it out of me. And so if someone said, "You're cancer," I would correct them. I don't care who it was. Like, I would immediately say, it's not my cancer. It's my situation, and the cancer is something that I'm dealing with, but it's not mine. I don't own it, and I don't welcome it in my body. It's got to go. It's the enemy.
One thing I'd like to add that I learned through this, Tony and our journey has been very difficult, but everybody has crosses to bear. And to label one bigger than the other person's, that's unfair. It's totally unfair. Their cross to bear is their biggest cross to bear, as was ours. And thankfully, we've been able to help other people. That's a blessing to be able to do that. And I feel very strongly about this. I'm sure Tony does, but we've both been very fortunate to be part of world championship clubs. But the opportunity to lift other people up and help them get through a difficult time, for me, is far more valuable than that.
You've both displayed immense perseverance over the years, and it's gotten you to where you are today. That said, someone watching this video right now may be at the low point, or what they think is going to be the low point of their treatment, if not their entire life. What words do you have for them to get them to keep going?
Well, I just want people to just keep fighting, and believe. Like, don't give in. Like, it's something that my doctor said to me early, and that it made sense. He said, you don't have cancer. Cancer has you, and cancer's got to deal with you. And so how you fight it is going to make the difference, not what you allow it to do to you. And for me, that made perfect sense. And so I would just say to people, like, all of us, whether we're in good health or not, we only have today. We have no idea what tomorrow's going to bring, whether you've been diagnosed with cancer or anything else, or whether you have a clean bill of health. Tomorrow's not promised to any of us. And so enjoy today. That's why win your day is important. Today is all we have. Like, fight today, win today, enjoy today, and deal with tomorrow when it gets here. But don't dwell on the what ifs and the things that you don't want to happen. Speak about what you want to happen, and the I cans and not the I can'ts. And so just the positive mindset, it can take you a long way.
You got to be very, very guarded that you don't prophesy your future. That's very dangerous, because we can talk ourselves into or out of many, many things. I know people are suffering and they're in their darkest days. I said things to my wife that I'm not particularly proud of, that I've learned from. As Tony said, what comes out of your mouth is real and can carry you. So you got to be very, very careful that you don't prophesy beyond the moment. As Tony said, you got to fight and stay in the moment. Don't think about the what ifs or the probability of this or probability of that. Take care of now. Take care of now, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow at all.
Taking it back to the beginning, for someone who's watching this, who's just heard those words, you have cancer. What's most important for that person to do right away to kind of frame the experience that lies ahead for them?
What's different today than yesterday? I've just gotten news of something that I didn't know yesterday, but I had it yesterday. And so don't get so caught up. That word is scares people. People hear cancer and they immediately, for some reason, go death. Like, they relate it to, like, it's final. And, like, don't give the word that type of power. I just think that your life is a journey, and you have no idea, like, where it's going to take you and what you're going to go through. But there are going to be highs and lows, and you just don't know what they're going to be. And so if you can enjoy the great times in life, then when things are tough, you got to find a way, to embrace that. And I just looked at it as if, and like I said, I took a faith approach. If I can praise God when I'm on the top of the mountain, then I need to praise God when I'm in the valley as well. And for me, that gave me strength.
Dwelling on the what ifs is a complete waste of time. When you're going through these difficult times, your energy is finite. And wasting time or energy dwelling on the what ifs takes away from what you can focus on in the now. So maximizing whatever it may be, even if it's the smallest detail in the now, take care of that. The what ifs don't matter. If you don't take care of the now, you're not going to get to the what ifs.
You guys aren't just a couple guys with World Series rings. You're a couple guys who've beaten cancer and are talking about it now and sharing your story. And we thank you for doing that. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to allow us to share it with other people and hopefully help.